Ever think cartoons were just for kids? Think again. The swinging 60s weren't just about peace signs and flower power, it was when animation broke all the rules. From psychedelic fever dreams to political powder kegs, these aren't the Saturday morning cartoons your parents let you watch. Which band masterpiece would have blown your mind if censors hadn't locked it away? Aru Machikado Nomogari, 1962. Japan's early animation masterpiece caused more trouble than anyone expected. Director Tezuka Osamu crafted a wordless tale about posters and street objects coming to life as war descends on their corner. But censors weren't having any of it. The film's anti-war message hit raw nerves across Asia. Without a single line of dialogue, it showed ordinary lives crushed by bombs and propaganda. South Korean officials yanked it from festivals, while Taiwan banned it outright for dangerous subversion. Even in Japan, distributors quietly shelved it after nervous whispers from government officials. What made this peaceful little film so threatening? Its refusal to glorify conflict in a region still healing from war wounds. The striking visuals, watercolor backgrounds, and experimental animation created a haunting beauty that made its message impossible to ignore. Underground animation circles treated copies like treasure, passing them hand to hand at secret screenings. Film students would gather in basements to watch grainy fifth-generation prints, debating its symbolism into the night. Today, animation historians point to Aru Machikado as the film that proved cartoons could tackle serious themes with artistic maturity. Its DNA lives on in everything from Grave of the Fireflies to Satoshi Kon's dreamlike masterworks. Sometimes the quietest cartoons speak the loudest. The Man from Button Willow, 1965. Hollywood legends teamed up for this Western adventure cartoon only to see it vanish faster than tumbleweeds in a dust storm. Dale Robertson starred alongside Barbara Jean Wong in what should have been animation's answer to John Wayne. The film blended traditional cowboy action with Cold War paranoia, featuring a heroic government agent battling conspiracies in the Old West. Sounds innocent enough, right? Wrong. Censors across Eastern Europe blocked it for its American propaganda and glorification of spy activities. The real controversy exploded around its depiction of Chinese railroad workers. Though intended as sympathetic, the dated character designs and accents horrified Asian American viewers. Several theater chains refused to screen it after protests at early showings. Director David Detige defended his creation, claiming he wanted to highlight forgotten contributions to American history. Critics weren't buying it. The Los Angeles Times called it a well-intentioned disaster that manages to offend everyone. The financial fallout was brutal. After costing nearly $2 million to produce, astronomical for animated features then, it earned back barely $600,000. The studio shut down within months. For decades, Button Willow existed only in collector circles, with faded 16mm prints trading hands at outrageous prices. When a restored version finally hit DVD in 2005, viewers discovered a fascinating time capsule of 1960s cultural attitudes, for better and definitely worse. Ubu Roy, 1965. French animation leapt into artistic anarchy with this adaptation of Alfred Jarry's avant-garde play and promptly crashed into censorship walls worldwide. Director Jean-Christophe Averty transformed the already scandalous 1896 source material into a nightmare carnival of grotesque puppet animation. The plot followed the buffoonish, power-hungry King Ubu as he seized the Polish throne through murder and maintained power through absurd cruelty. Its savage satire of authority figures didn't just ruffle feathers, it plucked the whole chicken. French television originally commissioned it, then panicked when they saw the finished product. The black and white animation featured crude toilet humor, distorted violence, and merciless mockery of politicians, military leaders, and religious figures. Officials at ORTF, France's national broadcaster, shelved it after a single late-night airing. Franco's Spain banned it outright, with government memos calling it degenerate Parisian garbage. Italy allowed a heavily edited version missing nearly 20 minutes. American distributors wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Averty was bewildered by the reaction. "I simply animated what Jerry wrote 70 years ago," he told reporters. If it still offends, perhaps society hasn't progressed as much as we thought. The film developed legendary status among animation historians and counterculture figures. Terry Gilliam cited it as a major influence on Monty Python's animation style, while underground cinemas in Paris and Amsterdam held secret midnight screenings throughout the decade. Les Astronautes, 1960. This French-Czech collaboration broke animation rules and international censorship laws simultaneously. Directors Walerian Borowczyk and Chris Marker created a surrealist journey of a homemade astronaut exploring the cosmos in a cardboard spaceship and triggered a bizarre diplomatic incident. The film blended stop-motion with traditional animation in ways never seen before, creating a dreamlike quality that entranced art-house audiences. Its deliberately naive style masked surprisingly sophisticated themes about scientific progress and human ambition. French audiences loved it, but Czech authorities were furious when they discovered their co-production funds had supported what they viewed as Western decadence. The film was banned throughout the Eastern Bloc despite having a Czech co-director. The controversy intensified when the film won awards at Western festivals. Czech officials demanded their country's name be removed from all credits and promotional materials, essentially trying to erase their involvement in their own masterpiece. Most baffling was the Chinese reaction. When the film screened in Hong Kong, mainland Chinese authorities denounced it as cosmic imperialism and a metaphorical invasion of socialist space. This marked the first time animation had triggered an international space-related diplomatic protest. Borowczyk defended his creation, stating, "It's a film about imagination, not politics. If imagination itself is political, then perhaps the problem lies with those who fear it." The film's reputation has only grown over decades. Martin Scorsese cited it as a forgotten milestone in animation freedom during a 2009 retrospective, calling its suppression a crime against artistic innovation. Yellow Submarine, 1968. The Beatles' psychedelic cartoon voyage wasn't just a trippy joyride, it was a cultural battleground. This explosion of pop art animation and Fab Four music became the most commercially successful banned film of the decade. Director George Dunning created a vibrant world where the Beatles saved Pepperland from the music-hating Blue Meanies using nothing but songs and good vibes. The groundbreaking visual style mixed Peter Max-inspired art with surreal sequences that pushed animation technology to its limits. Though beloved in the West, censors elsewhere weren't feeling the love. South Africa banned it outright, citing psychedelic imagery, promoting drug culture, and anti-authoritarian themes. Several Middle Eastern countries rejected it for supposed Western moral corruption. Most bizarrely, the Soviet Union initially approved it as anti-capitalist satire, then hastily banned it when youngsters started forming Beatles clubs after screenings. One Moscow official reportedly complained it was more dangerous than actual Western propaganda. In America, concerned parent groups demanded age restrictions, claiming the film's kaleidoscopic imagery was designed to enhance drug experiences. The National Association of Theater Owners issued a rare viewer discretion advisory for what was marketed as a children's film. Despite the controversy, or because of it, Yellow Submarine grossed over $8 million worldwide, astronomical for animation at the time. Today, its innovative techniques are standard in music videos and adult animation, proving sometimes the most influential art is the kind that makes authorities nervous. Belelladana of Sadness, 1969. Japan's Mushi production created this psychedelic fever dream that pushed animation into territory so forbidden that financiers fled and theaters refused to book it. Though not widely released until 1973, its production throughout the late 1960s generated underground notoriety that made it effectively banned before completion. Based loosely on Jules Michelet's book on European witch trials, the film followed a medieval peasant woman who makes a deal with the devil after being wronged by feudal lords. Director Eiichi Yamamoto used watercolor imagery and limited animation to create a hallucinatory visual experience unlike anything seen before. Early production artwork and test reels leaked to the press caused immediate scandal. Japanese cultural authorities warned theaters against booking it, while international distributors recoiled from its challenging imagery and themes. The film's troubled production became legendary. Original investors pulled out after seeing initial segments. Animation staff quit over creative disagreements. Mushi Production itself went bankrupt, partly due to resources poured into this uncommercial project. When finally released in heavily edited form, it flopped financially but developed an immediate cult following. French critics hailed it as animation's answer to Jodorowsky, while mainstream reviewers called it animation gone mad. The film's complete restoration wasn't available until 2016, revealing the full artistic vision that frightened 1960s authorities so badly. Modern critics now recognize it as decades ahead of its time, animation that dared to be explicitly for adults when the industry insisted cartoons were only for children. The Magic Flute, 1966. Czechoslovakian animators turned Mozart's opera into a modernist masterpiece, only to see it banned by both communist authorities and Western distributors for completely opposite reasons. Director Karel Zeman combined cutout animation with live opera singers to create a dreamlike version of the classic tale. His bold artistic choices included abstract backgrounds and stylized character designs that transformed the traditional story into something radically new. Communist Party officials initially approved the project as bringing high culture to the masses. Their tune changed upon seeing the finished film, which they deemed Western decadent modernism and inaccessible to the working class. The film was pulled from Czechoslovakian theaters after a brief run. Ironically, when Zeman attempted to distribute it in the West, American and British companies rejected it for being too communist in sensibility and lacking commercial appeal. One distributor reportedly told Zeman, "We want Cinderella, not avant-garde experiments." The film found brief exhibition in France and Sweden before disappearing almost entirely from circulation. Film historian Peter Hames later called it the most sophisticated animation that nobody was allowed to see. When the Iron Curtain fell, film archivists discovered the original negatives had been perfectly preserved, apparently too controversial to show but too artistically significant to destroy. Its 2005 restoration revealed a forgotten milestone in animation history that had been effectively erased by competing ideologies. Bambi Meets Godzilla, 1969. The shortest film on our list became the most widely banned comedy cartoon of the decade. Marv Newland's 90-second gag film featured a cute deer peacefully grazing until a giant foot squashes it flat, and censors worldwide lost their minds. Created as a student project at Sheridan College, the ultra-low-budget short consisted mostly of crude drawings and extended credits. Its dark humor came from the shocking juxtaposition of Disney-esque innocence and sudden, unexpected destruction. Television networks across North America rejected it outright. ABC's Standards Department called it potentially traumatizing to children, despite its obvious parody nature. Canadian broadcasting authorities labeled it unsuitable for general audiences due to violent content directed at children's sensibilities. Most bizarrely, Japan temporarily banned it for unauthorized use of national cultural property, apparently taking offense at the casual depiction of their famous movie monster. The ban was lifted after Toho Studios executives actually saw the film and couldn't stop laughing. Newland never expected such controversy. "It was just a silly joke," he told Film Comment magazine. "I spent more time on the credits than the actual animation." Despite official disapproval, the short became an underground sensation, screening before midnight movies and circulating on early compilation videotapes. Today, it's recognized as a pioneering work of independent animation that proved you didn't need Disney's budget to make cultural waves, just a twisted sense of humor and the courage to offend absolutely everyone. The Singing Lesson, 1967. Polish animation genius Jan Lenica created this seemingly innocent music lesson cartoon that got yanked from screens across Eastern Europe for its too obvious political subtext. The film depicted a stern teacher forcing a classroom of diverse students to sing in precise unison. Those who deviated were punished or removed. By the end, all unique voices were eliminated, leaving only perfect, identical, soulless singing. Communist authorities initially approved the 5-minute short, apparently missing its scathing metaphor for totalitarianism. The light bulb moment came after its premiere at Poland's Krakow Film Festival, where audience reaction made the satire impossible to ignore. Party officials immediately pulled it from distribution. The Polish Film Archive was ordered to restrict access to the negative. Lenica was temporarily banned from directing and reassigned to poster design work. Word of the ban only increased interest. Film students smuggled prints across borders, and festival programmers outside the Soviet bloc sought it out specifically because of its forbidden status. When confronted by cultural commissars, Lenica offered an ingenious defense. It's merely about the importance of proper music education. This explanation fooled nobody, but provided just enough plausible deniability to protect him from more serious consequences. After the fall of communism, the singing lesson was recognized as a perfect artistic encapsulation of life under authoritarian rule. Animation schools now teach it as a masterclass in using simple imagery to convey complex political criticism, all without a single direct reference to politics. Bimbos Initiation, 1960. This bizarre pre-code Betty Boop cartoon from the 1930s saw an unexpected revival in 1960s art house cinemas until moral guardians shut it down all over again. The surreal short featured Betty's canine friend Bimbo being kidnapped by a cult-like organization that repeatedly asks, "Want to be a member?" while subjecting him to increasingly dangerous and twisted trials. Its nightmarish imagery and adult undertones made it a rediscovered favorite among 1960s counterculture audiences. Revival screenings in New York and San Francisco attracted enthusiastic crowds and unwanted attention from authorities. The New York State Film Board classified it as unsuitable for public exhibition, despite its having played in regular theaters decades earlier. Chicago police actually raided a University Film Society screening, confiscating the print under obscenity laws. The charges were eventually dropped, but not before creating a chilling effect on other animation retrospectives. Conservative critics claimed the cartoon promoted initiation rituals and secret society membership to impressionable viewers. The National Legion of Decency placed it on their condemned list alongside experimental underground films. Animation historian Leonard Maltin later wrote, "The ridiculous rebanning of Bimbos Initiation proved that moral panic around cartoons hadn't evolved since the 1930s, except the censors had gotten more powerful and less intelligent." The controversy transformed this obscure cartoon into a symbol of artistic freedom. Today, it's regularly featured in animation retrospectives, its once controversial content seeming almost quaint compared to modern adult animation. The Hangman, 1964. This haunting animated adaptation of Maurice Ogden's anti-McCarthyism poem created a firestorm when it hit American educational markets. Director Les Goldman's stark black and white imagery proved too powerful for comfort in Cold War America. The story followed a town where citizens watch passively as a mysterious hangman builds a gallows and executes people one by one. Each person thinks they're safe until it's their turn, a chilling allegory for political complacency during witch hunts. School boards across America banned it after parent complaints. Arizona officials called it psychologically damaging to young minds. Texas labeled it un-American despite its message supporting constitutional values. Library associations fought these bans, creating a nationwide controversy. What made the Hangman particularly threatening was its artistic sophistication. The minimalist animation style emphasized the poem's dark message rather than softening it. There were no cute characters or comic relief to make the medicine go down easier. The film found unexpected defenders. CBS News aired a special report on the controversy, questioning why an anti-totalitarian message was being censored in American schools. The publicity boosted the film's profile and undermined censorship efforts. Today, The Hangman is studied in both film and history classes as a perfect example of how animation can deliver political messages with unique power. The controversy it generated demonstrated animation's capacity to disturb adults far more than children, especially when it reflected uncomfortable truths about social conformity. Heaven and Earth Magic, 1962. Experimental animator Harry Smith created this feature-length collage film that mystified audiences and terrified censors with its hypnotic, occult-influenced imagery. Using Victorian-era illustrations cut from magazines and books, Smith crafted a surreal narrative following a woman's journey through cosmic realms. The black-and-white animation featured bizarre transformations, esoteric symbols, and dreamlike logic that defied conventional storytelling. While technically completed in the late 1950s, the film's limited distribution occurred primarily in the 1960s and ran into immediate problems. New York state authorities classified it as potentially harmful to mental health after psychiatrists claimed its rhythmic, flashing sequences could trigger altered states of consciousness. Religious groups targeted theaters showing it, with one Tennessee pastor calling it a visual instruction manual for summoning demonic entities. University screenings faced protests and cancellations across the Bible Belt. Smith didn't help matters by openly discussing the film's connections to his interest in alchemy, Kabbalah, and occult traditions. In interviews, he claimed certain sequences were designed to induce specific mystical experiences in viewers. Underground cinema embraced the controversy. Beat poet Allen Ginsberg called it the first truly psychedelic film, while Andy Warhol reportedly screened it at parties with the sound turned off and rock music playing instead. Despite, or because of, official disapproval, Heaven and Earth Magic influenced generations of animators, music video directors, and visual artists. Its techniques anticipated the digital animation revolution by decades, proving that sometimes the most visionary art is exactly what mainstream society isn't ready to see. The Sneeches, 1966. Dr. Seuss's anti-prejudice parable became an unlikely lightning rod when this animated adaptation faced bans across the American South. The seemingly innocent story about star-bellied creatures learning that differences are meaningless hit too close to home during civil rights battles. Director Chuck Jones faithfully adapted Seuss's tale of creatures discriminating based on arbitrary physical features, only to realize their differences didn't matter. The animation maintained the book's whimsical style while emphasizing its message about the absurdity of prejudice. Several southern states blocked its television broadcast, with Mississippi's film board specifically citing inflammatory content unsuitable for impressionable viewers. School districts in Alabama and Georgia banned it from classroom screenings. The controversy intensified when civil rights leaders embraced the film. Martin Luther King Jr. reportedly referenced it in a 1967 speech, calling it a children's story with very grown-up wisdom. Conservative parents' groups demanded CBS remove it from Saturday morning broadcast plans. The network compromised by airing it in a later time slot with a special presentation disclaimer, unprecedented for a cartoon. Dr. Seuss himself defended the film, stating, "If they're banning a story about how pointless discrimination is, they're just proving why we need stories like this." The attempted suppression backfired spectacularly. The controversy boosted both broadcast ratings and book sales. Today, The Sneeches is recognized as a pioneering use of animation to teach children about prejudice, proving that sometimes the most controversial cartoons are simply telling truths some aren't ready to hear. A Man and His Dog Out for Air, 1960. Robert Breer's experimental 2-minute animation became the most technically banned cartoon in history, prohibited in more countries than any film of comparable length. Using rapidly changing line drawings that barely form recognizable shapes before transforming into something else, Breer created a visual experience that defied narrative convention. The simple white lines against black backgrounds morphed continuously, occasionally suggesting a man walking a dog before dissolving into abstraction again. Medical authorities in multiple countries raised alarms about potential health risks. Japan's television regulators banned it after neurologists claimed its flickering imagery could trigger seizures in susceptible viewers. Similar concerns led to broadcast bans in Britain, Australia, and parts of Europe. Beyond health concerns, some countries objected to its artistic approach. Soviet cultural officials rejected it as Western formalist decadence, while Spain's Franco regime bizarrely claimed it contained subliminal anti-Catholic messaging. Breer was baffled by the reactions. "It's just lines moving around," he told Film Quarterly. "The fact that so many powerful institutions feared something so simple suggests they understood its revolutionary potential better than I did." The film became a cause célèbre in animation and art circles. Museum screenings often featured warning signs and waivers, adding to its forbidden mystique. Today, animation scholars recognize it as a pioneering work that challenged fundamental assumptions about what animation could be, apparently scaring authorities precisely because it refused to play by established rules. Of Stars and Men, 1964. This philosophical space odyssey from John Hubley ignited unexpected controversy by daring to present scientific evolution to cartoon audiences. The film, adapting astronomer Harlow Shapley's book, took viewers on a cosmic journey exploring humanity's place in the universe. Using fluid, abstract animation styles, Hubley created a visual poetry exploring scientific concepts from atomic structure to galaxy formation. The film posed profound questions about human significance while presenting evolutionary theory as established fact. The scientific content proved explosive in America's Bible Belt. School boards in multiple states banned it as anti-religious propaganda. One Oklahoma superintendent called it an attempt to brainwash children with godless science. Similar rejections occurred across the southern United States. International reactions varied wildly. Soviet bloc countries enthusiastically embraced the film as materialist science, while Spain's religious censors required a disclaimer stating the content was theoretical only. Japan, meanwhile, added it to their educational curriculum. Hubley defended the film's scientific accuracy while expressing surprise at the backlash. "We simply animated current scientific understanding," he told Science magazine. "If facts themselves are controversial, we have bigger problems than My Little Cartoon." The film won prestigious awards at European festivals, even as American distributors hesitated to touch it. PBS finally broadcast a version in 1969, prompting congressional complaints about taxpayer-funded atheism. Today, Of Stars and Men is celebrated as a pioneering work of scientific visualization and philosophical animation. Its controversy foreshadowed modern science versus religion debates, proving that even the cosmos becomes political when animated for public consumption. Propaganda Message, 1968. The most politically dangerous cartoon of the decade wasn't made by animators at all. It was created by CIA operatives specifically to be banned. This covert Cold War weapon, disguised as an innocent cartoon, short-caused international incidents across Latin America. Designed to look like a typical Mexican animated folktale, the 7-minute film contained embedded anti-communist messaging and subtle mockery of Soviet-aligned leaders. U.S. intelligence agencies arranged for its accidental inclusion in film packages distributed to theaters in Cuba, Chile, and other Latin American nations. When Cuban officials discovered it playing in Havana cinemas, diplomatic outrage followed. The Soviet embassy issued formal protests, while Cuban authorities launched investigations into how American propaganda had penetrated their theaters. The film's true origins remained classified until documents were released in the 1990s. CIA memos revealed the agency considered the operation highly successful based on the disproportionate reaction it generated. Animation professionals who later reviewed the declassified film noted its technical quality far exceeded typical propaganda. The agency had apparently recruited talented animators who believed they were working on educational content. This strange chapter in animation history demonstrates how cartoons became unlikely weapons in global power struggles. The film itself remains partially classified, the only banned cartoon that was specifically designed to get banned. Song of the South, 1960s re-release. Disney's controversial live-action/animation hybrid sparked renewed bans and protests when re-released in the 1960s amid civil rights struggles. The 1946 film's depiction of plantation life and racial stereotypes collided with changing social consciousness. Set in the post-Civil War South, the film featured Uncle Remus telling animated folk tales to children. Its combination of cheerful animation and problematic portrayal of black characters created a disconnect that became increasingly unacceptable as American society confronted its racist foundations. When Disney re-released it in 1963, protests erupted outside theaters nationwide. Civil rights organizations condemned its sanitized depiction of plantation life and stereotypical characterizations. Several northern city councils, including Detroit and Chicago, passed resolutions urging theaters not to show it. Disney defended the film, pointing to its Academy Award and initial success. Walt Disney himself reportedly never understood the criticism, believing the film portrayed Uncle Remus positively. This tone-deaf response only intensified the backlash. The controversy affected Disney's bottom line. The re-release earned just $2 million, a fraction of expectations. The company quietly removed it from their regular re-release schedule, effectively instituting a self-ban that continues today. Film historian Leonard Maltin later wrote, "Song of the South represents a perfect storm of cultural blindness, talented artists creating technically groundbreaking animation while completely missing the problematic context their work existed within." The film remains officially unavailable on home video or streaming in the U.S., making it perhaps the most famous banned animation in history, not by government decree but by cultural consensus and corporate caution. Outro. From Cold War paranoia to artistic revolution, these banned cartoons pushed boundaries that some weren't ready to see crossed. Which of these forbidden films would you risk watching? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And here's a question that'll keep you up tonight. If animation could cause this much panic back when it was hand-drawn frame by frame, imagine what today's creators could do if they weren't afraid of being canceled. What masterpiece might be sitting in a studio vault right now, deemed too dangerous for our eyes?